right, good afternoon. Hi, hopefully everyone is doing great. It is Dr. Linda Jordon with LRJ Coaching and Business Solutions. And today we have a special guest, and it's Diana with an Ageless Life. So we'll welcome Diana to the stage. Hello, Diana. How are you?
Hi, I'm great and so happy to be here today.
Thank you so much. Apologies for the delay. I was having a little technical snafu.
Yeah, it seems like it's been that kind of week.
I know. So, um, thank you for joining on the show today. And so, what I'll do is have you introduce yourself to the audience, and then we'll start with just a quick dialogue around, what you do and who your customers are and what you have to offer today.
Great. So, as you mentioned, my name is Diana Devi. My business is an ageless life. And to succinctly describe what I do, I am a health coach that focuses on aging, and not just any aging, but aging well, because there's so many things that you can do in order to look good and to feel good that don't require external measures, shall we say. If you want to use
Oh,
those, fine, but there's lots of other stuff that you can do. So that is my focus and what I do.
awesome. So, Diana, now tell the audience, how did you get started in this business?
Like many things, we always start with what we need ourselves, right? So I was in my early 50s and I noticed that I started gaining weight. And it was weird because I was gaining weight in places that I typically don't. And I was tired all the time. I couldn't sleep at night. And, my background is as a pharmacist. And so, when you're in the healthcare arena and you've been there for a while, you go to somebody who's in that arena and you
Hmm.
have it checked out. So go in, she runs all these tests, come back and says, "You're getting old." And I'm like, "What? What did you just say to me?" Like, you gotta be kidding me. This is like it? This is all we got? So needless to say, I was horrified and never went back. But it also, and then there was this whole discussion about you need to accept the fact that you're getting older and da 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 da. And I'm like, it's not a psychological issue. There's stuff going on here. So I grew up focusing a lot about diet and movement and those kinds of things because of my family history. My grandmother had a lot of issues with regard. She had high blood pressure and a lot of hyperlipidemia. In other words, she had too many fats in her blood, cholesterol. So I watched what happened to her with her diet and how painful it was for her to make that change. And of course, at that time, they told her all the wrong stuff to do. Now we know a lot more than we did then, but I thought, if I'm going to have to go there eventually, I might as well go there now. And that kind of
Right.
started me on that quest. That and as an Argentine tango dancer, and I
Mm.
taught. Yeah. Oh my God, that's my passion. Um, that was like, I'm not going to give up dancing. I'm not going to give up doing that. And so I need to figure this out.
Mm.
So that's how, and the way it got into the business aspect is I was also teaching. And so I would have these women come in, they go, okay, now I know I'm here for a tango class, but can you kind of tell me all this other stuff that you're doing? Because you look great. Maybe the universe is trying to tell me something here. So
Wow, now I've never done tango dancing, but it does look just very interesting and looks like you get a fabulous workout afterwards.
oh, absolutely. Yeah. It is
Wow,
really good for your body. Yeah.
good. So now, Diana, who's your typical client that you work with?
The majority of the clients that I work with are women, I would say over 45.
Okay.
They are generally very high performance. In other words, they have either demanding jobs and careers and those kinds of things, or they're in that transition phase where they're saying, I did this, that was great, but I want to do something else as far as that goes. Maybe I want to start up a business. Maybe I want to do something else and kind of get out of that arena into something else. They're also finding that it's like, oh, I've got time now. I don't have kids at home. I, got my career to a certain place where I want it to be. I'm not interested in working 15, 16, 18-hour days anymore in that arena. So I need to do something for me. And if I don't, because I'm starting to see the wear and tear on my body, I'm
Hmm.
starting to notice how it's impact my thinking. I don't like the way that I look in the mirror, that kind of
Oh,
stuff.
okay. Wow, that's interesting. So yeah, being a mom who has a daughter who's now out of the home for several years now, gosh, started to believe 12. I never thought about the tango type dancing, but I did start doing more exercise because yeah, you have more time back in your life to do
Yes.
that. Yeah, exactly. So what do you typically recommend? Is it a weekly type tango dancing, or how does that kind of work?
So I could say that I'm kind of an addict, but pre-COVID,
Works
it was
great,
about
huh?
5 days a week. COVID was like 2 days a week on Zoom because my teacher who lives in Argentina, he would do a solo Zoom class. So, that was that. But now that it's starting to go back in, I'd say probably 3 days a week. And then of course, and that's the great thing is if you find something that you really like to do that's physically active,
Mhm.
then you're willing to do other things along the way. So I do exercises and balance and all of this other kind of stuff, stretches, so that I can dance better. Because after all, I'm walking backwards in
Mhm.
3-inch heels for hours. So that might kind
Really?
of do a little bit of stuff to your body that it wasn't really designed to do,
Yeah.
but it's so much fun.
Absolutely. So
Yeah.
how did you come up with the title Ageless Life?
I wanted something that really reflected the fact that it's about life. It's not about how old you are, and that you can feel ageless. In other words, you can decide that you want to do something regardless of how old you are. Now that for me isn't going to mean that I'm going to climb Mount Fuji. I didn't want to do it when I was 20. I sure don't want to do it now. So there's a little bit of reasonableness associated with it, but to really take away the stigma of I can't do that because I'm a certain age.
Right,
It's
right.
not true, you know.
Yeah, that's very true. But yeah, because people tend to get to a certain point and they're thinking, well, I can't do that because, my body aches or something of that nature. Or you're right, it's based upon age. And that's so not true anymore, these times. I've
Yeah.
seen older people on roller skates, after a certain age, but that's not for me.
Yeah, I don't bounce quite as well as I used to. So
No, no, no. I don't bounce at all. So tell us a little bit more about how do you work with individuals in your program? So what do they get from you?
So they get a lot of one-on-one time. And I say that because there is so much within for example, in the beauty industry, they say, okay, you need this cream for this and this one for that. And you pull open your drawer and you have serums and oils and creams and potions. And you do this under your eye, you do this for your crepey neck, you do this
Mhm.
for your face. And a lot of them don't work at all, and some of them actually age you more, which is kind of sad that we spend all of this money on this stuff and it actually makes things worse. And it doesn't work the same for everybody. So what might work for one person is not going to work for another one. And until you understand what it is that your body needs, and
Mhm.
don't get me wrong, there's some general rules of things that you can do, but there's lots of little things that I can do to help along the way to tweak it. So for example, you get better sleep, or I've got facial exercises that I give people because there's 52 muscles in your face, so and
Right.
I like to start with 5-minute increments because
Okay.
most of us are busy. We got a lot of stuff going on, but we got 5 minutes when we're sitting in the car or when we're, waiting in line at the grocery store, where there's some of these things that you can really start to implement and use immediately.
Right. Great. Awesome. Awesome. So yeah, you're right. I mean, I looked in my makeup drawer this morning and I had all these bottles of, ageless this or cream for that
Yeah.
or serums. So can you tell us a little bit about, because you just said some work for some don't. Can you tell us a little bit about those serums and when should you use them? Because a lot of people are spending a lot of money on those
Yeah.
products, and like me, they're sitting in the drawer that I've used a couple of times and then I forget. What can you tell us about that?
So I really recommend kind of doing some research ahead of time, and that's part of what I help people with. I generally start with no fragrance, watching how much preservative is in there, and generally speaking, if it costs over probably 75 to $80, you're paying for the brand. And it
Mm,
doesn't necessarily mean that it's working. You're paying a lot for the advertising and for all of the stuff, and not necessarily the ingredients are in there. So I always start with people by saying, what is it that bothers you the most?
okay.
And we start there
Yeah.
because it might be that it is something associated with dry skin. So
Mm,
let's look at the products that you have. Do they have alcohol in them? Do they have, is it the wrong pH, for your skin? Is it going to dry it out more? Do you have sensitive skin? What kind of sunscreen are you using? All of these things kind of come together and really help to decide what it is that's going to work the best for you. But a lot of times too, it is what you put in here and what you
mhm.
expose yourself to. Those also have a really big impact on what it is that your skin is going to look like. And
Okay.
your skin is a reflection of what's going on in the rest of you. So
Yeah, that's true. And there's lots of products that I do see, like the creepy skin, or
yeah,
you get the turkey neck syndrome, or and drinking lots of water is supposed to be very helpful. So
yeah,
what should people do when they have, I mean, they've bought all these products because, it's the advertising that people provide. Because, any business, that's what they pay for, is advertising.
right.
And sometimes there's so much stuff on the back of the ingredients. How would one really know what to look for around preservatives, alcohol, all that kind of stuff? I mean,
Yeah, it's I wish it was something that was super easy to do, but it is fairly complicated because when you look at the ingredients, there's like 20 to 25 in there, and most of them are chemicals that you can't pronounce and you have no
mhm,
idea what it means. So I do have a resource that I can provide that I'm willing to go through with people and help them understand what is in there, what they need to look for, and how that works. And so if they want to just go to book a call with Diana, .com, and I have my 5-minute facelift. And what we can do is use that time to kind of go through some of that stuff, but really looking at trying to find as clean a product as you can. So there are a couple places I go. Environmental Working Group, they have a great website that lists some of the products that are really bad for your skin. Um, Unfortunately, new chemicals are coming out all of the time,
mhm,
and they're not necessarily listed on there. I try to go with some that are maybe, I would say most of the products that I use are not from a major cosmetic house. There are more things that I follow and use a lot by some French companies, some Korean, that kind of stuff. And they tend to be a little bit more pure as far as that's concerned. A lot of times you do have to put on more than one thing, but
mhm,
the best thing to start with is you got to get all the junk off of your face at night when you go to bed, because that's when your skin needs to breathe. So
mhm,
finding something that's nice to get rid of all the makeup
right.
really is going to be good. I particularly like stuff that have squalene in it because they do a lot to remove, but also restore the natural tone of the skin, or the barrier of the skin, because when you get older, your skin kind of goes back to the way it was like when you were a baby, and that it's really sensitive.
Yes.
So, it's like, okay, all this is great. Now what do we do? Um, but being very mindful and test patch things, rather than I buy small starter kits of stuff to try once I figure out the ingredients, because sometimes there's something in there that my skin doesn't tolerate.
Yeah,
So
that's so very true. You're right. Yeah, and oftentimes we don't really. Sometimes we do think about it, but we're like, oh, we see this commercial or someone, if you're working in the mall or wherever, and they're saying, try this product on, you're like, oh, it feels really good. And then we end up buying it and
Yeah.
then we don't use it. So what advice would you share for the busy man or woman who really wants to take care of their skin, but they don't have necessarily a lot of time and they don't want to spend a lot of money on fancy products to get it done?
So I would start with, and this is going to sound a little bit strange, but I would start with facial exercises. And the reason I say that is because you've got 52 muscles in your face. And like any muscle, if you don't move certain parts of your body, then the muscles get flaccid. Basically, they start collapsing and they don't hold the tone or the texture that you want. So by doing facial exercises, you increase the blood flow to the muscles in the skin. It
Mhm.
helps increase collagen production. It changes the wrinkling because, you don't have something that's saggy, right? Like a piece of fabric, when it sags, it wrinkles. If you
Right.
have more tone or quality to it, it's great. Oh, by the way, some of these work for snoring as well. Kind of a double
Huh.
benefit. It's like, ooh, this is nice.
Good tip we didn't know about.
It's like, hey, I'm doing these for my face. Not really the snoring, but for my face, right? So that's probably the place that I would start. And then if you are needing to use something that you just want something that's kind of light to provide moisture, jojoba oil.
Oh,
And
okay.
that
All right.
I really like.
Hmm.
Um,
Now you would put that on in the morning or
yes, I put it
okay.
on in the morning and I put it on at night. And
Right.
because I live in Minnesota, I will put that on before I go outside. So it kind of acts as kind of like a sealant. So because it gets windy, it gets cold here, and that dehydrates your skin. It just pulls the moisture right out. So
Got it.
I put that on. The great thing about it is, and again, should be organic and should be cold press, because those two things mean that when it's cold press, it means they haven't added any chemicals to it, because you can react to the chemicals. So you put
Okay.
that on. It feels a little bit oily at first, but your skin absorbs it just like that. And so you can
Okay.
just put a couple drops in your hand and
Hmm.
then just kind of spread it all over your face. And you'd be surprised how little that you need of it. You can put it on as often as you need to. I put it on my lips as well. Do not use chapstick. Chapstick will make your lips even more chapped and dried out, just so you know.
Another tip for those that are listening: no chapstick,
Yep.
jojoba oil.
Yeah. Um, I also will use coconut oil or olive oil. So I
Okay.
go into my kitchen, it's like, okay, what do I need today? I'll tell you, olive oil in
Uh-huh.
particular is a little bit heavier,
Yeah.
and it takes a little bit longer for it to go in, but it's got lots of good stuff in it that feeds your skin. So you're feeding it from the outside as well as protecting it.
Good. Okay. Now you mentioned earlier that facial exercises were healthy. What is one quick facial exercise you could demonstrate for those that are watching that would help us with our glow and youthfulness?
So one of the ones that I really like is an exercise, because a lot of times when you look in the mirror, one of the first things you see is this, right
Hmm.
underneath the chin, and in here it's like, oh, what is that all about?
I need a tall neck.
How did that happen? It's Thanksgiving. Do I need to be worried that I'm going to be the one that's the turkey? Ah!
Right.
So it's a really simple exercise that I call it around the world, where you
Okay.
basically just stick your tongue out. You try to touch your nose. I'm going to have to take my lipstick off because otherwise it'll
I
be
mean,
all
you
over the
really try to touch your nose with your tongue?
uh-huh.
Okay. That's pretty hard.
Uh-huh.
Oh, and you just go around.
And then you go around the other direction. So what that does is, in a lot of times you can feel it down underneath in here
Uh-huh.
and in here, and some people feel it even up in here. So as long as it's just sensation and not pain,
Right.
that's a great one to do. And I was doing this one time, and I was sitting at a stoplight, and I looked over, and this little kid was sitting in the back seat of the car. And so he started sticking his tongue out at me, and his mom turned around and went,
Not knowing you were doing exercises.
Not knowing that I was doing my facial exercises and he was just responding to me. So I felt bad, but I didn't know what can I do? They're driving off. So
Right. That is too funny. But that's a great exercise. Yeah. Stick your
well,
tongue in.
and
Okay.
it's easy. Like I said, you can do it in the car. And most of the time when you're driving, people are not paying any attention to you
No, they're
at
not.
all. They're just,
They're not.
yeah.
Awesome. I love it. Love it. So for the busy man or woman, facial exercises, doing the tongue, and then just clean your skin well and put the jojoba oil on it, right?
Yep. Yep.
Awesome.
That's a
Awesome.
great place to start.
Great place to start. So, Diana, for those that are listening, how can someone connect with you to learn more about an ageless life?
So there are a couple of different options. So if you're ready to see what you can do, more building on some of the things that we talked about, you can hop on and get my 5-minute facelift, and that's at Book a Call with Diana, DIANA.com, and that'll plug you into my calendar. Or you can follow me on Facebook, An Ageless Life. And I also have some exercises and things on YouTube, An Ageless Life with Diana. Or you can just email me at Diana at An Ageless Life.
Ageless Life. Agelesslife.com.
Yes.
Diana
Just,
at agelesslife.com.
yes.
Awesome. Okay. Just want to make sure I'm putting that in the comment so that everyone can take an opportunity to connect with you and learn more about how we can get rid of our turkey
Yeah.
necks before Thanksgiving, continue to have beautiful, soft skin as we age, even in our busy lives. So, any last words that you'd like to share with our audience today, Diana?
Well, I would like to basically let people know that the way that you age is within your control. There is so much that you can do about it. And it just takes you deciding that that's what you want to do. Our genetics play a little bit, maybe 20% or less. So that means we got this other big percent that says we got control. So go for it.
Awesome. Well, it has been an indeed pleasure to have you on the show today, Diana, An Ageless Life with Diana Devi. So for those that are listening, please connect with Diana. And I've put the information in the chat, but you can connect with her on Facebook, as well as she has a 5-minute facelift at bookacallwithdiana.com, or connect with her through email at diana at agelesslife.com. So
And
Diana, thank
ageless
you.
life, sorry.
And ageless life. Let me make sure I correct that at anagelesslife.com.
Yes.
Glad I
Thank
made that
you.
correction. Awesome. So thank you so much for joining me today, Diana. Hope you have a happy Thanksgiving. And
This has
those
been
that are
fun.
listening, yes, those that are listening, happy Thanksgiving to you. And until next time, we'll see you next Thursday on Real Talk with Dr. Linda. Bye bye, Diana.
Bye bye.